In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul Amadeus Lane in the tech zone.
Hello and welcome back to the show. I am Paul Amadeus Lane. This show is going to just blow your mind. My guest that I'm going to have on, she is going to talk about what her organization is doing to help encourage, to help motivate girls out there to get into the video game development industry. And this is huge. This is amazing. What she's able to do and able to pull off in a short amount of time has just been awesome. All the superlatives: awesome, stupendous, vanglorious, supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, with all the superlatives out there. It is so amazing. And I'm so glad she decided to join me on the show to talk about not only her story, but what her organization is doing out there to encourage girls to make games. And I'm so happy to have with me right now a young lady I had a chance to meet at PSX 2017, and she's an amazing person. I talked about her before. She's been on the show. Laila Shabir, founder and CEO of Girls Make Games. Laila, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me, Paul. This is really exciting.
You know,
I like that globe behind you.
Oh, thank you. I got the whole world in my hand. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, you do.
But, you know, I'm glad I had you on because I wanted to catch back up with you from our conversation we had at PSX, because you have done some incredible things. I've been following some of the things that have happened with Girls Make Games, and also you, the ESA honoring you, and all these great accolades. So before we talk about that, for once who missed our first interview together, why don't you let everyone know your story and what made you to create Girls Make Games?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll have to, I guess, start at the start. I grew up in the Middle East. My family is Pakistani, and I lived there for about 18 years. I was in high school. I come from a very different culture where a lot of people in my extended family don't expect girls to, aim really high or have ambition. In fact, the word ambition is seen almost as a bad thing. So at a very young age, when I started saying things like, I want to be Prime Minister of Pakistan, I think it shocked a lot of people. But the only two people that it didn't shock was my parents. And they, in fact, encouraged it and fueled it. Like I said, in the ESA award night, I was talking about how those are the two people that I would credit, because even when I had the whole world against me, they believed in me, and they said, my dad's parting words the first time I moved to the U.S. were, live like a young man. And it's a quote that we say, it's a saying in Urdu, and it basically means live without fear, be brave. So he wanted me to come here. I was moving all by myself. I'd never lived without my family. I was 18 and moving to a new culture, to America, a country that, a lot of people from my part of the world don't really think is safe for Muslims, and don't think is safe for women from our culture. But then, my parents took that step, and I'm really, really grateful for that. So I went to MIT, and I was going to go become an economics professor. I always wanted to teach from a very young age. I was running a school for young kids when I was in elementary school myself. So I was running a school in our backyard for the kids in our neighborhood. So education's always been really close to my heart, and I always saw it as a ticket to a better life. Or a better understanding of the world that you live in. And after I graduated, I met someone very interesting, my current husband. At that time, he used to play a lot of Halo, and he was just completely immersed in games. I didn't want to say obsessed. Completely immersed in games. And I didn't play any games at that time. So when I met him, I was just like complete culture shock and complete. I came from a part of world also who looked down on games and thought that this was such a waste of time. But he showed me the power of games, and he showed me what games can do to a person's cognitive skills and critical thinking and all of these things that you can learn from games. And given that I was interested in education and I was going to pursue a very straight path, like, hey, I was going to become a professor, go teach at a university, and consider my job done. But he helped me question the way we were doing things and the way the world does things. And together we decided that we would explore video games for education. So we packed our bags and moved all the way to California to start an educational game studio. So the history of Girls Make Games comes from an educational games company. I haven't yet published a single game. It just so happens that while we were building our studio, it was just impossible to find women to come work with us, even though, I was a woman recruiting women. It was just, we ended up having all boys. And this was the first time that I actually looked around and saw that there were so many disparities in an entertainment world, in games that look like something girls would be interested in. It's pretty, it has stories, there's all this aspects of games that girls would enjoy, but not many were making. And when I asked the people around me, most of them, including my husband, responded with, maybe girls don't want to make games. And so that's where Girls Make Games was born. It was supposed to be a one-time summer camp where we tested our hypothesis, or the world's hypothesis, that girls don't want to make games. And we proved everyone wrong, because girls love making games and they love playing games.
That is so true. And just to backtrack a little bit about your story, it's incredible. So growing up in Pakistan, and when did you know you had this ambition to strive for more and to really just buck the norms and the systems and say, you know what, I'm gonna go for it. I'm gonna be a go-getter. Even though the relatives and everything and close friends may think I'm crazy. When did you know you had that drive?
So just one distinction. My parents are Pakistani, but I grew up in the United Arab Emirates in the Middle East. So, I think there was definitely something there. I always felt like a really weird kid because I was always doing stuff. Like some of my earliest memories are, we didn't have a drama club at the school. So I started the drama club. I wrote the play, directed the play, and no one wanted to act in it. And so I acted most of the characters just because I wanted to get the play done. So I think the go-getter personality is definitely something innate, and I have very early memories showing examples of that. But the people that fostered it really were my parents and some of my early teachers who saw that in me. And instead of telling me, well, there were enough people telling me not to do the things, but I'm very stubborn, so I always just listened to the people who said yes. And I kept banging on everyone's doors until they said yes. Even for college, I applied to about 30 colleges, and I really, really wanted to get that education. I wasn't like, here are the 5 schools I want to go to. I was just like, anyone, please just take me. I want to go to school.
No, I hear you. And growing up in the UAE,
yeah.
What your friends? Let's talk about your friends now. Yeah. When they saw you had this drive and determination, were they like, no, Laila, don't do it. Or Laila, go on, girl, go ahead and do it.
It's really funny. My best friend actually had a transformation because before, this was a new school I joined in high school. Before I came in, she didn't really think much about her future or her career or anything. And when I came in and became friends with her, she got really inspired as well. And I always tried really hard to get people, especially girls, excited about this, because I think when you're about 15, 16, it's really easy to forget that you're going to have a life later and you're going to be very different later. So having that practical mindset of working hard now so you can enjoy things later, it's really hard to train people in that. I think I got it from my parents and I was just trying to pass it on. I do know that there were some people that were very concerned, including some of my female teachers who were concerned about the way I used to question things or the way I wanted to do things. A lot of people were against me applying to the U.S. That was a pretty big deal. It's like, oh, you're going to be a sellout. You're going to go to America. Why not go to Pakistan or go to India or any other countries that are closer to our culture? I'm hoping that they can look at things now and see that, things do work out. It depends on the person. It's true, sometimes the environment, if you put people in the wrong environment, they might not do well. But I saw nothing wrong with getting an education. So all that I was pursuing was an education, a higher education at some of the best schools in the world. And the best schools in the world were in the West. So why wouldn't you strive for that? And why wouldn't you push people for that?
And you need to be applauded for that drive and determination, because hearing you talk, it's interesting how certain cultures are similar, because being growing up in African-American culture and growing up in the hood, we heard those same kind of
selling out.
Yeah, criticism, selling out and everything. And it's interesting how every culture in every part of the world has a similar story of that. It shows us how we're so much alike. You know what I mean? Everybody wants to talk about how different we are. No, we are more alike than we are different.
There's a lot of fear.
Yeah.
The talk about selling out comes from fear of losing your people or losing your values. And
Absolutely.
There's a lot of talk in my culture now of how the generation now doesn't follow the same values, that our wedding rituals are changing, and honestly, those are such superficial things if you think about, tradition is important, but if tradition gets in the way of progress, you need to get rid of that. That's
true. And one more question about your journey that led us to where you created Girls Make Games. And that is, can you pinpoint one point in your life that you look back and said, if I wouldn't have made this decision, I wouldn't be where I'm at today? Is there like one area in your life or maybe a series of progression of things that happened that we now have Laila Shabir?
Yeah, there's definitely one. There's one, it changed my life a lot. I don't know if it got me to where I am, but it was the first time I opened an economics textbook. So a really boring thing, but it just blew my mind away because before ever being introduced to economics, I was pretty set on becoming a computer software developer or engineer. This is in middle school. So I was starting to look ahead at high school, and I really always wanted to be ahead. So when I was in middle school, I was already researching high school textbooks. And so when I found the econ book and opened it up, and the definition of economics about how you get to understand the world and its resources and how they're allocated and things like efficiency and optimizing. And I know it sounds really boring and dry, but my mind was just so blown. I made an instant switch from software development to economics. And that's what I studied at MIT as well. And that's what I did for the first 2 years in my career before I switched to games. So I think economics gave me a very, very much better understanding of the world that we live in because, econ shapes policy, it shapes our financial structure, it shapes everything. And if you look at time, money, people, place, they're all resources. And if you can learn how to manage those resources, that's a really important skill for a young kid.
That is so true. And it's not boring at all. I think it's incredible because I think if someone's going to be an entrepreneur or have a startup, they need to know about economics. They have to. If they don't know, they're doing themselves a disservice. So the fact that economics kind of gave you that push, to learn certain things, I think it's incredible and it's amazing, and it's some great advice for ones out there who may be listening. And when it comes to being in America and you're at MIT now and your boyfriend plays Halo, in the back of your mind, you think like, yeah, this is what my family told me about. All Americans do is play games all day and eat cheeseburgers. Was that the mindset you had at first initially?
I know for sure. So this is really funny. My parents are always very supportive of everything I did, except the switch that I made from, if you think about it, I started making an investment in my economics career in middle school. So from middle school until my first 2 jobs, I was still involved in econ. And now I was making the switch to games, which I didn't even play. So my parents were just looking at me like, okay, she's definitely lost her mind now. This boy, he's done something to her.
Yeah, it's always us, right? I got some stories too about my wife too. It was us. We're the ones that did everything, but now go ahead and continue. I definitely understand.
Yeah. So they didn't get it out there. I kept telling them this is not about the games. The games are a medium. The outcome is what I'm interested in. I still want to teach. I'm just using games because they're more effective. And they didn't get it for some time, but they totally get it now. I mean, they were there at the Night to Unite Gala. It was the most memorable night of their lives. They were very proud and very happy that I'm pursuing this. And it's definitely a huge introduction for them to a new medium of entertainment. I mean, neither one of them sees games as something that they would engage in, but they see kids around them. They see everyone's playing all the time. Yeah. So they understand why we're trying to create more diverse content, more educational content for the medium.
And we're glad that you did. Now take us to the point now where you finally created this company. You're trying to get ones to come and work for you.
Yeah.
How did you overcome that challenge? What did you do, or did you start to think that maybe I'll go back and go back into econ and maybe be a spokesperson on one of the cable news shows and talk about economics? How'd you deal with that? How did you deal with that challenge?
It was really impossible. I mean, it wasn't until we hired everyone. So the first iteration of the company was basically what we called a gamer hacker house. And what that meant was we got this big apartment and we flew people out to live with us. So I was almost like mother hen, like feeding everyone and taking care of everyone, making sure they're making the good games that we want them to make. And at one point I looked around and I was like, it's just me and 6 boys. I mean, what's going on? I'm just taking care of 6 boys who love playing and making games. And that was, I think, a difficult transition for me, going from what I was doing before and the way I was looking at things. So it's very easy to look at someone's life trajectory and think that they've always been successful and they've always been so sure of what they wanted to do. But there were definitely moments where I would question, because I didn't understand games myself. I mean, I didn't play very many, so I didn't understand why someone would have that emotional reaction or connection to a game. The only game that does that for me now is League of Legends, which is really weird. I have an emotional connection with League of Legends.
Do tell. So you shouldn't have said that. Now I want to know what the emotional connection is.
Yeah, no, it's really good for my mental health. I mean, I play League quite a few times a day. I can't have a day without League. But that's the only game I play. That's another thing, is like once I start something, I have an obsessive personality. So I've just been playing for several years and and haven't been able to put it down.
That's me. Like when I first started playing Battlefront, I couldn't put it down until I finished both of the campaigns, So I definitely, I definitely get it. So Laila, what I want you to do, if you can you stay with me one more segment? Because I want to get into more about the Girls Make Games, what you do for young women out there, and just some of the great experience you have in doing that. But not only that, I want to talk about what you guys got planned for the future. So can I hold you over for one more segment?
Absolutely.
All right. So everybody, don't go away. We'll be right back with some more Tech Zone with the great Laila Shabir. I told you guys this is going to be an awesome segment. One of these days you're going to believe me. We'll be right back with more show coming up after this.
In this world of technology, things are ever changing, rearranging. You need someone to help you out. I know someone who can. Come and take a journey with me as we go through the land of technology. You'll never be alone. You'll be with Paul, Amadeus, Lane in the Tech Zone.